Today we will spend some time looking at differentiation through the strategies of Rafts, choice board, playlists, and pathways. Our targets for this session are to learn strategies for differentiating instruction to meet the different learning levels of your students. The second target is to learn to apply these strategies for implementation in your classroom or a general education classroom that you're providing consultative services for. So when should I use these strategies? You can start to use Rafts, choice boards, playlists, and pathways when you would like to differentiate by readiness, interests, and learning profiles and multiple intelligences. When you're considering the varied learning styles of your students, that would be another good time to use the strategies. And when you want to allow student choice and voice and give them a lot of flexibility with the activities they complete, it would be a good time to use it. And you could use it while students are learning. You could use it at the end of a unit of study as a culminating activity. You could use it as a workshop activity. You could use it when you are developing products to avoid that repetition. It gives kids more of a challenge. And you can focus on either one skill or you can focus on several different skills when you're implementing these strategies. We'll start talking about Rafts first. A Raft is, it stands for Role, Audience, Format, and Topic. And it's a way to present a writing activity to students where they have some choice in their product and how they will format the activity. So Rafts offer students variety in relevant and engaging choices. So you can see when a student thinks about the role they're taking on a specific perspective. When you're thinking about audience, it's who are you speaking to or who are you writing to? The format is the product that's going to come out of this activity. It might be a podcast or a poem or a creative writing piece or interview. And then the topic can be decided upon by the teacher, which would be the concept or unit of study or a smaller topic underneath that unit. Sometimes the students can select the topic, but it would still be related to the unit of study. You would want to use a Raft to build comprehension skills. You would want to use it so that students get that practice in assuming other viewpoints and perspectives. You would want to use it to integrate writing in all curriculum areas. It allows students opportunities for rewriting and rethinking and discussing concepts and events. So they're really internalizing. And that also fosters creativity because students can be creative in the type of product and then the perspective that they give on the topic. Here's an example of a raft that revolves around the water cycle. And in this, the students are given 4 choices and they would go across the row. So if they chose option number 1, they would assume the role of a water drop travel agent. Their audience would be other water drops. The format would be a travel guide. So the students will actually create a travel guide. And the topic is travel to various water cycle locations. So they will put themselves in the perspective of the water drop travel agent to complete the travel guide. If they were to choose option number 3, they become a grandparent water molecule and they're talking to water children and they're going to write a children's story that focuses on old water molecules' life story. So it's like they are passing down a story of their life. In the fourth option, the students actually have lots of flexibility and choice because they choose a role of their choosing. They pick the audience of their choosing. They pick whatever format they're interested in, and they actually choose the topic as long as it's still related to the water cycle. So you can always add that fourth choice for your students and see what they come up with. You may want to have students help develop the raft with you by brainstorming all the different roles and then all the different audiences that they would write to. And then they could brainstorm the formats, and you could keep that list available all the time so that they can choose from that list. And then you can decide whether you want the topic to be chosen by the teacher or if you want the students to even brainstorm some topics that fall under the concepts in unit of study. That would really tell you, if they have really gotten a lot out of the unit of study if you're towards the end. If you're at the beginning, it might be better just to give them the topic, but you can decide that. So the student has some voice in creating the raft if you go that route. This example comes from the book Start Seeing and Serving Underserved Gifted Students. And this is an example of a raft that's focusing on renowned scientists from underserved populations. And in this one, the students assume the role of a scientist from an underrepresented group, and then they would go across on this one in their row. So, for instance, if they choose Katherine Johnson, then they're going to be taking on the persona of Katherine Johnson, and they may have already studied these, or they may have to do a little background research on these students. On these scientists. And then they're going to be writing to society. They're going to use a public broadcast format, or you can allow them to propose another format. And the topic is going to be, she's going to be speaking about the need for more Black women in STEM fields. So you'll notice on each one of the formats here, the students can propose another format. And so that allows that choice piece in there. And then again, at the bottom, the students are coming up with their own scientists. So maybe they already know of a scientist that they want to do, or maybe they have you provide a list and they choose from that list. So they're getting that choice in who they pick. And then they can choose their audience and format and topic again. So again, lots of variation that you can do and provide the options for creativity for your students. In this example, the students are going to be talking about the Indian Removal Act. So that topic will stay the same no matter what role, audience, and format the students choose. Then they can choose from any of the 3 options for the role. So they could either be soldier, child, or young Cherokee woman. Then they'll choose their audience. Who are they going to be speaking to out of the 4 choices? And then they can choose one of the 5 formats. So this one is a little more rigid because they have to stick to the Indian Removal Act for their topic. And then they only have a select number of choices under each topic area or role, audience, format area. So again, they have choice, but it's just a little more narrow choice. In this example, this is focused on the book Frindle. If you're not familiar with that book, it's about a 2nd, 3rd grade level book, and it's about a boy named Nick Allen who does a play on words. He kind of gets in trouble, and so anyway, he ends up renaming pencil or pen Frindle. And so the book is all about the craze that ensues after this renaming. So students are taking on the role of one of the characters from the book. Their audience is going to be either one of two characters from the book, or American TV viewers, or the citizens of Westfield, which is the town that the story takes place in. And then they have 5 options for the format. And then again, like I said, it's all focused around the topic of the events at Lincoln Elementary School where the Frindle craze was occurring. So, so you can see how that was organized. All right, so now we're going to move into choice boards and menus. These have been around a long time. This is usually a great starting point when people are trying to implement differentiation. So we're going to take a look at a few different types, and then we're also going to look at some digital choice boards. So the choice board is similar to the tic-tac-toe board, and students are given choice in the activities and projects that they are going to complete, and they will be practicing the objectives and skills as they work through the activities. Another type of choice board is a menu, and the menu can be constructed in several ways. It can be constructed like a menu in a restaurant, where the choices are appetizers, entrees, and desserts. And the menus could also be organized in a variety of other ways. And we'll look at some samples of those in the upcoming slides. The choice boards or menus should include choices that reflect the interests and learning styles of the students in your classroom. They should guide students in the choice of activities. The teacher is going to kind of guide the students so that they're challenged, but they're not frustrated. And so the way that you organize your choice board will help to guide those students to those choices. And then the teacher is going to provide clear instruction in how to use the choice board and menu. Will it be used more like an independent contract? Is it going to be used during a specific structured time of the learning day? That kind of thing. And then also, a timeline on, are there check-in points along the way? Are there specific due dates? Is there just a range of time? So just so the kids know and understand what they should be doing when it's time to work on this choice board. So here's some different ways that you can use a choice board or menu. You can focus on one concept or unit, or you can focus on smaller skills within those concepts and units. You can include one skill, or you can include multiple skills to practice or reinforce or even extend if you are at the end of a unit. You can create these around a variety of learning styles, or you could use multiple intelligences as you're coming up with the activities and thinking through how you want to present those to students. You can use these for a variety in presenting questions for text, any kind of response question or word problem in math. You could also create different levels of challenge for the same choice board. So let's say you pre-assess and you've got 3 to 4 different groups that are at different points of learning and different levels. So maybe you create the choice board and think through the activities, but then you have different levels. So like tiering, you would tier the choice boards so that each student got a particular choice board that was predetermined by the data you had from either observation or assessment. So those are just some different ways that you can use the choice board or menu. So here are a few examples. In each square, there's a different activity related to the lesson or the unit objective. The first example is a science task board. The second one is a government branches and levels, and the third one is using multiple intelligences to respond to a piece of text. You'll notice that they all look a little bit different. In the first example, they're giving you the product up front, so a student can look across there and say, okay, I like to do poetry, I like acrostics, I'm going to, maybe I'll pick number 2. Or they can look and say, well, I like working with graphs, so maybe I'll choose option 8. On the second one, it's in bold in the activity, so they can quickly look through the activities and see what they're going to be required to produce. So if they like to do a slide deck, then maybe they'll go with number 4, and then they'll read through it and see if that sounds appealing to them. Or maybe they want to they're more art inclined, so they look at number 7 and see they're going to be able to create a mobile, and so they might go with that. And then in the last example, they don't really have the product highlighted or outlined in any way, but it usually starts with, the verb write out or draw, make up a raft. So this is, gearing to the different multiple intelligences of students, but they're all still responding to the same piece of text. So you'll notice also in the middle example about the government branches at the bottom, they're telling what activities they're going to choose, and they're signing and they're dating it. You've got the standards up at the top of that one. So anyone, say you were having a walkthrough that day and someone wanted to know, how does this align to what you've been doing? So you have your standards right there at the top. So the students understand how it fits in with their learning, and then anyone coming through your classroom will easily be able to see how it's related. So the first thing you would do was identify your objective. Why do you want kids to complete these activities? What skills are they going to be working on? Then decide how many choice boards you're going to have. Are you going to have one choice board? Are you going to have multiple choice boards? How are you going to structure that? Are the choice boards going to be based on student need, or are they going to be based off of interest, or a little bit of both? So again, like I said, it's like tiering. You've got to make those decisions prior to actually coming up with your activities and organizing your choice board. So then you're going to design a number of tasks. It doesn't always have to be 9. You may only have 6 tasks. You may have only 3 tasks. It just depends on, what you want to provide for the students. And then you're going to determine the arrangement of the task. Are you going to have students pick a row? Are you going to have them pick a column? Are they going to be able to go diagonal? That kind of thing. So you just have to kind of think through those. So you could construct it where row 1 was for your highest level of learners. Your 2 is kind of your mid level, and then your last row is for students who need some remediation and just a little more scaffolding. So you can structure it like that. It's really up to you how you determine the arrangement. Then once you have decided those things and you've come up with your activities, you're going to have your students choose a set number of activities. And again, you could assign specific squares to certain groups of students, however you want to do that. So now we'll look at some menu options. These look different from the choice board because they're not arranged like in a tic-tac-toe board. The first one, which is the first 2 images, the state history menu of options, is asking the students to complete activities that will add up to a certain point value. So in the directions, they say, your points can add up to between 50 and 70. If you're trying to earn a 50, then the highest grade you're going to get is a C. If you're trying to earn 70 points, then the highest you're going to get is an A. So that's how students will choose this. And you can see they've organized it by choices that are worth 50 points, 30 points, 20 points, and 10 points. And so you really have to kind of think through that as you're organizing it, and explain those point values to students, and organize tasks that take a little more time for the higher point value, or make students think a little bit deeper. And you could, say you have to choose a 20-point activity. So you can decide what your parameters are on that. And then the last example is of a subtraction menu, and students are going to check which ones they want to do on the left side. These are also given point values between 5 and 15. And the goal here is to get 20 points. And you'll notice the very last choice is a free choice. So the students can make a proposal to the teacher for the product that they would like to do, and then the teacher can approve that and talk through that with the student. And then this is almost like a contract too, because they're keeping up with the date they completed it and the points that they earned, and they sign the teacher initials, and so they've made their decisions about what they're going to do, and basically they know how many points that they can earn. So it's broken down for them. Again, in bold, they have what product is going to be produced, so the kids can quickly look through that and choose things based off of their interest for the product. So those are menus. Again, there's a lot of different ways you can organize these as well. They don't all have to be based off of point values. So, you could base it off of other things other than point values. But this is a good way, kids like to see the points sometimes. So that might be good, especially for younger students. Here's another example of some choice boards. In the geography example, you'll notice that they're coded by a shape. And so they're asking students to choose 2 activities on this one. So they've given them 16 activities, but they only have to choose 2. And the teacher is going to assign the student a symbol. And then the student has to pick from the activities from their symbol. So really, the students only have 4 choices to choose from, because let's say I was assigned a star, but I'm going to look and I'm going to pick 2 activities from only the star activities. So this is a way the teacher has some predetermined groups, and she's assigning specific tasks, but there's still some choice in there. On the addition example, the students are choosing 1 activity from each shape group. So you're still, kind of directing students to specific activities, but they still have some choice there. So in this example, students are going to color the ones that they complete, and they have a completion date that they're going to work through. And those things are important, because we know a lot of times our gifted students don't have those executive functioning skills to plan things out. So helping guide them with a due date and timeline and those kind of things are helpful for a lot of our students. Some digital choice boards and menus have really become popular with the move to virtual and remote learning. And these examples and templates were shared by Simple K-12. If you're not familiar with them, they do a lot of digital professional development. You can pay to have access to their webinars. And this one presented by Chrissy Romano Aravito. She shared step-by-step videos on how to create digital choice boards. She gives a lot of templates. She gives some that are themed, like the Bitmoji Pete the Cat one. There are also, there's a free ebook for creating digital choice boards, and you can download that. You'll have access to make a copy of this slide deck, and you'll be able to click on all of these links and go and get copies of the templates or view the videos and download the ebook. If you want to make copies of any of the slides, you'll need to go to the link at the bottom, the tinyurl.com/choiceboards K12. And when you go, you'll have to click on each link, and you will click on File, because they're Google Slides, and you'll make a copy so that then you can manipulate your copy from that. So lots of great choices here and resources that you can get some ideas from. And these can be embedded into any learning management system that you're using, or and you can also use them with other slide deck softwares to create them. So I would encourage you to go and grab some of these templates to make it a little bit easier to create these. So the last thing that we're going to look at are playlists and pathways. And this might be fairly new for many of you. So a playlist is basically, if you think about a song playlist, you would be going consecutively through that playlist in order to listen to each song. So in a playlist, you're going in order sequentially to complete activities. The activities are based on standards and pre-assessment data. Tasks, like I said, are in sequential order, but students may enter the playlist at different points, and we'll talk about that. The activities are purposeful. They're independent or group activities. So sometimes students can work together with others to complete the activity, and sometimes they'll have to do it on their own. The second type of strategy is a pathway. It's similar to the playlist. It's, again, based on standards and pre-assessment data. But in this one, students have more choice and voice in the completion of their activities rather than going in a sequential order. And the tasks lead to mastery of the skill, just like in the playlist. So here are a few examples of playlists. The first one could be used over the span of a book study. This one's on the Watsons Go to Birmingham. They have included the icons of depth and complexity on a few of the activities that are included here. And so they've used the icons, but they're actually using an icon of depth and complexity for students to think about each one of these. And so this gives choice, but it also builds as it goes because they're using it over the life of the book study. And so they're starting out kind of lower level with just details, and then they're working up to the multiple perspectives piece. And so that's one way, because they're having to do all the activities in this, but they don't have a lot of choice because they have to go in order and they have to do the activity that's there. In the second example, this is more of a true playlist because all the activities are completed in order, but the entry point is going to vary. So a pre-assessment would be used, and students are going to know what skills that they have mastered based on the pre-assessment, and the teacher will guide them as to what point they need to enter the playlist. So for instance, activities 1 through 7 are focusing on skills and concepts with a depth of knowledge of 1 and 2. And then 9, 10, and 11 are focused on strategic thinking with a depth of knowledge of 3. And so if a student has mastered some of the skills that are going to be the focus in activities 1 through 7, well, maybe they've already mastered 1, 2, and 3. So they are going to enter the playlist at 4 and then go in sequential order. Another student may have mastered almost all the skills and maybe they enter at 7 and then they go in sequential order. In this particular example, they are having to accumulate 15 points. So this one may not account for entering this playlist in a different entry point. They may have to do all of these activities to get the 15. You can use the points or not use the points. It just depends on how you are structuring your playlist. But a true playlist has the list of activities, and then students only complete the ones that they have yet to master. So one student may only have 4 activities that they go through, another student may have more. Some of them may not get to the depth of knowledge, so they may only get to the 1 and 2. Just depends on how the teacher's going to use that playlist. But it's based on mastery of the skills. So they're going in order and mastering those skills as they go along. So here are examples of pathways. And in a pathway, a student has more choice because they're given a couple of activities or, 3 to 4 activities, and they choose the one that they're going to do, or they choose 2. It's up to the teacher to kind of make those decisions. So the students are completing the activities based on data and level of mastery as well. So you'll see on the left side of the first example, students are either novice, apprentice, practitioner, or expert. And so depending on the skill, so you'll see this one's focusing on RL 3.2 and 3.3 as the standard. And then they have 3 activities that they complete. Now, a student may be an expert at that level, and so they may not have to complete anything on one row, and the teacher may conference with them and sign off. But then on another skill, they may be novice, and so maybe they have to complete all 3 activities or at least 2 of the activities. So like I said, there's choice in that. Again, students are seeing what activities are. They're making a choice on which ones to complete. Usually, with the case of the playlist and pathways, there is usually some type of system. So if there's a text or a worksheet or a graphic organizer that students are supposed to use, then there's some kind of system where they can go and find the corresponding activity in the classroom and then complete it to go along with this. So there's a lot of prep work because you have to have, these activities copied or the resources that they're going to need for each activity available throughout the life of the playlist or pathway. On the second example here, the green book, this one, they're going through it as they go through the chapters. So you'll see for chapter 1, they've got 3 must-dos, and then they have some choice activities. So in this one, they're having to complete all the must-do activities and then 1 of the choice activities. And then when they move to chapter 2, they choose 1 or more of the choice activities, but they still have their must-dos, but they're not. These are ones that they can do fairly easy, so they would have more time to do the choice activities. And so this one also covers the life of the book, and so it builds as the chapters are read. So you can get a copy of this presentation by scanning the QR code, or you can go to this tiny URL link. So I'll leave this slide up for just a minute. so that you can either take a picture or write down that link or scan the QR code. And these are the resources that were used to create this presentation. The example menus and choice boards and Rafts came from these resources. The playlist and pathways came from edelements.com, and some examples that I had, teacher friends of mine. And then the digital choice board information came from Central K-12 and Chrissy Romano Arabito. And this is her Twitter handle so that you can follow her and get some great ideas for using technology with your class and differentiation strategies. So I hope that you were able to take at least one of these strategies and use it with your students as you're providing consultative services. And if you have any questions, my contact information is on the next slide. And hope that you got something out of this today. So thanks for listening in.